Hi, fifth grade. Today we're going to be doing Module 3, Lesson 10, and we are going to continue adding fractions today. The only difference is now our fractions are going to have sums that are greater than 2. So that just means that our answers, instead of just looking like 3/8 or any other fraction smaller than 1 whole, we're going to have answers greater than 1 whole and greater than 2 wholes as well. So let's get started with this first problem, and please make sure you have out your Lesson 10 notes. So for our first problem, fifth grade, we have to add 2/5 plus 1/2. And hopefully you notice that I have a little note off to the side on your notes. And that note says that we want to add our whole numbers first and then add our fractions. So what we're going to do is we are going to identify the whole numbers in this problem and add those up first. So usually in a mixed number, the whole number is the number that comes first. So we're just going to look at this 2 and this 1 right here. Since I have an addition sign here, that means I'm going to add up these two whole numbers. So I have 2 plus 1. I know that 2 plus 1 gives me 3. And then I'm going to write the rest of the problem. So now I have 3 plus, and now my fractions, I'll write those, 3 plus 1/5 plus 1/2. And now what I need to do is I need to add up just this part right here with my fractions. So to do that, we're going to do the same steps that we did yesterday. So I'm going to keep this 3 plus over here, but now I'm going to use those little parentheses like I did for the last lesson to multiply my fractions as I had that common denominator, and then after that we can add everything up. So for my 1/5 right here, remember we have that LCM, and I'm trying to find that least common multiple between 5 and 2. So I'm going to start with the bigger number, and I'm going to count by 5s. So I'm just going to do 5, 10. I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to count by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I see that the smallest matching number between these two rows is this 10 right here. So now what I can do is I know that I'm trying to get my denominators to equal 10. So I'm going to write 1/5 with that really long fraction line. And I'm going to think, okay, I need to multiply this or split it into groups. I need to split it into 2 groups so that I can make my denominator 10. So I'm going to do 1/5 times 2, or 1/5 groups of 2 to get that denominator of 10. And then over here, again, I'm going to write that really long fraction line. I'm going to take a half, and this half, if I want my half to have a denominator of 10, then I need to split this into groups of 5. So I have a half times 5, so that my denominator is 10. Now, I'm going to again write this 3 plus because it's still hanging on there. I need to solve for 1/5 times 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Now, almost there to my final answer. I need to add these two fractions together now that they have these common denominators. So I'm going to do 2/10 plus 5/10. I know that 2 plus 5 will give me 7, and my denominator of 10 will stay the same. Just make sure that we don't forget about this whole number. That's why I've kept it with us the whole time. I need to add our whole number to it for a final answer of 3 7/10. So what we're doing is pretty much the same step. This step is not changing at all. The only thing that's different really is that we're having to add two whole numbers, and now that whole number needs to stay with us the whole time, and then it gets added on to the fractions that we add, so that again we have an answer that is greater than 2. So I'm going to erase this, and we're going to move on to our next problem. And for this one, we have 2 4/5 plus 1 1/2. So for this one, again, remember we're adding the whole numbers first. So I have to find my whole numbers. So I have 2 and 1. I'm going to think, what is 2 plus 1? That is 3. And now I need to add my fraction. So I have 4/5 plus 1/2 And now I'm just going to put parentheses around this part because I'll put it around like this. I need to add 4/5 and 1/2 now. So to do that, just like before, I am going to write my little parentheses for each fraction. Have my long fraction lines in between. I'm going to write 4/5 right here since that's the first fraction I want to work with. And from the last problem, we know that the least common multiple between 5 and 2 is 10. So I'm going to figure out what I need to multiply 4/5 by so that my denominator can be 10. Well, I know that if I do 5 times 2, that will give me 10. And remember, whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top as well. So I'll also multiply the numerator by 2 as well. Then over here, I have a half. And this half, I know that I also want this to have a denominator of 10. So I'm going to do 2 times 5, because I know that 2 times 5 will give me 10. And I do 1 times 5 as well. And again, just like lesson 9, you'll see that we're kind of just multiplying by the number from the opposite side. So 4/5 is being multiplied by 2 because that's the denominator from the opposite sides. 1/2 is being multiplied by 5 because that's the denominator from the opposite sides. So now we need to solve for the multiplication. So we still have this 3 plus coming along. Remember, we don't want to forget it, so we want to keep bringing it down. But we're going to do 4 times 2, which is 8, and 5 times 2, which is 10. Then we add 1 times 5, which is 5, and 2 times 5, which is 10. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky, and you might see what's about to happen. What I have now is I have 3 plus, or we'll do 3 plus 8 plus 5 gives me 13 tenths. So I have a whole number plus an improper fraction. I don't like that really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this. So I'm going to rewrite this up here. So I have 3 plus 13 tenths because I definitely can't keep it like that. And I definitely don't want to write it like 3 and 13 tenths because that looks really silly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this so that, remember those steps that we used to change our improper fractions into a mixed number? We're going to do that right now. So we're going to add 10 tenths, because remember we're trying to create a whole number out of those tenths, plus the remainder that we would need to get 13 tenths. So think 10 plus what would give me 13? So I'm going to do 10 plus 3 tenths. And then this 10 tenths plus 13 tenths is the same thing as this 13 tenths, but now I can change it into a mixed number. So now instead of having this right here, what I actually have is 3 plus 10 tenths is going to become 1, and then we have that 3 tenths. So now I can easily solve this because I know that 3 plus 1 is 4, and then 3 tenths can get added onto that. And that gives me my final answer of 4 and 3 tenths. So that is our final answer for this problem. I know it looks like a lot of steps, but once you can start doing this step in your heads, then this part will look as difficult for you. And you can even start learning how to do this part in your head as well. And once you can do all that, it'll be a lot easier for you to show your work and finish these problems a lot quicker. All right, let's move on to the next problem. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this. And our next problem is 2 2/3 plus 5 2/5, just like that. So remember, our first step is we want to add our whole numbers together first. So we have 2 plus 5, which is going to give me 7. Then I still need to add on these fractions. So I have 7 plus 2/3 plus 2/5. And I just want to worry about this fraction part right here. But before I continue, I'm going to find that LCM so I know what I'm going to be multiplying each of my fractions by. So I can create those equivalent fractions. So we're going to have something that looks like that. And now we're going to find the LCM of 3 and 5. Remember, we only find the LCM of denominators. We don't find the LCM of numbers on the top because we just want to find common denominators. So we're going to count by 3. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I'm going to count by 5s. 5, 10, 15. And I see that the smallest number that both rows that are matching is 15. So that is what I want to multiply that's what I want to try to get these numbers to at the bottom. So I'm going to think about, well, 3 times what would give me 15? Well, I know that 3 times 5 would give me 15. And since I am multiplying by groups of 5 on the bottom, I have to do that to the top as well. And then over here, at 5 times what would give me 15? Well, I know that 5 times 3 would give me 15. And then since I did that to the bottom, I need to do that to the top as well. So now we can start adding these up and multiplying. So I have 2 times 5, that gives me 10. 3 times 5 gives me 15. Then I have 2 times 3, which gives me 6. And 5 times 3, which gives me 15. And you might notice we're about to run into our problem again. So we have 7 plus 10 15s plus 6 15s. So I have 7 plus 16 15s. And I don't really like this because, again, this is an improper fraction. So I need to change it. So to do that, we're going to rewrite this. And I'm going to rewrite this up here so I have plenty of space. So I'm going to rewrite this problem as 7 plus, since I have 16 15ths, I want to create a whole number out of those 15ths. So I'm going to write 15 15ths because I know that will equal 1 whole. And then I'll add the remainder to get those 16 15ths. So 15 plus what will give me 16? Well, 15 plus 1 will give me 16. So now we need to do, I'm going to rewrite this one more time. 7 plus 15 15ths will become 1 whole plus 1 15th. And then 7 plus 1 will give me 8. And then I'll add the fraction onto that to get my final answer of 8 and 1 15th. And eventually you're probably going to get to the step where I write out every single step so that you can see what's happening behind the scenes. But if you can do steps in your head and you want to try to just skip maybe this part and just write it as this part, if you can start doing that, then that is totally fine to skip some steps if you can just do them in your head and get them correct on paper, because I know this becomes a lot to write every single time. All right, we're going to move on to our very last problem now. So I'm going to erase this one more time. And for this very last problem, we're going to be adding 3 and 5 sevenths plus 6 and 2 thirds. So again, just like before, we're always going to add our whole numbers first. We have 3 plus 6. 3 plus 6 will give me 9, and then I can add my fraction. So 9 plus 5 sevenths plus 2 thirds. They don't have a common denominator, so I need to multiply them and change them up so that they have that common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite this as 9 plus, we've got my little kind of mini brackets, plus 2 thirds. All right, so we have our problem looking like this now, and I want to find that LCM just like last time to see what I need to change my denominator to. So I have 7 and 3, so I'm going to count by 7s. 7, 14, 21. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to count by 3s. We have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I still don't have anything matching, so I'm going to keep going. And then finally, I have 21 that matches. So that lets me know that I want my denominator to be 21. So let's see what we need to multiply 5 sevens by to get 21 in our denominator. So 7 times what will give me 21? Well, 7 times 3 will give me 21. And since I did that to the bottom, I do that to the top as well. And then for this problem right here, we have 2 thirds. Well, 3 times what would give me 21? So I can just do 3 times 7 and 7 at the top as well. And remember, for most of these problems, you can just multiply this fraction by this denominator and this fraction by this denominator. You can take that shortcut. It's just that sometimes finding the LCM can help you so that you're not getting really big fractions when you don't need to have those really big fractions sometimes. So sometimes it helps to do this. Sometimes you just need to multiply by the other number. Once you really know your facts, then you'll kind of know automatically if you need to find the LCM or if you just need to multiply by the other denominator. All right, so let's continue with this problem. So we have 9 plus 5 times 3 gives me 15, 7 times 3 gives me 21, plus 2 times 7 gives me 14, and 3 times 7 gives me 21. So now I need to add 15 plus 14. 15 plus 14 is going to give me 29 21s. And again, I have an improper fraction, which I don't like. So I'm going to change that. So I'm going to rewrite 9 plus 21 21s. Because remember, I want to create that whole number, so it's just like way back in lesson 1. And then I need to think about, well, 21 plus what will give me 29? Or 29 minus 21 will give me what answer? So if I have 8 up here, 21 plus 8 will give me 29. And then I'm going to rewrite this one more time. So I have 9 plus 21 21s will become 1 whole plus 8 21s. So now I have 9 plus 1, which gives me 10. And then I add this fraction right onto it. So my final answer is 10 and 8 21s, or 21s, however you want to say it. All right, so 5th grade, you have a bunch of examples now to help you out on your U-Try problem. For this one, I really want you to think about the LCM, use that, and have that help you out, because just a little tip, you might not need to just multiply both sides. You might just be able to use that LCM to help you figure out what you need to do. All right, so 5th grade, good luck on the U-Try problem. If you need any help, please let me know. Good job today.